what really inspires me about the life of Jesus is how he was willing to really take on and confront the religious establishment of his day.
When Nicodemus, the highest ranking Jewish official in the country, comes and bows at Jesus' feet and calls him rabbi, and no one could do these miracles unless God were with him, and Jesus just looks him straight in the eye and says, I tell you the truth, you need to be born again. Jesus doesn't care about the outward trappings of religion. He just cuts to the heart and lets people know the truth that God has to say. But the same Jesus who's so blunt and bold with the truth is so gracious too, isn't he? So he's always got time for the people that no one else has time for. Think of the time when the disciples were saying, keep the children away, our Saviour hasn't got any time for them. But Jesus gathers the little children to him and says, actually, I've come for such as these. Or think of Zacchaeus stuck up a tree. No one wants anything to do with him, but Jesus invites himself round to Zacchaeus' house, and there's a transformation that happens.
One of the things that just jumps out at you when you read the story of Jesus is his treatment of women. And it especially jumps out if you read it in the cultural context of that day. That's true in some countries today where women are devalued. They're never allowed to go anywhere alone, not allowed to drive a car. And that's a similar culture in Jesus' day where women had to stay at home and they really didn't count.
Martha was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. She came to him and asked, Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do the work by myself? Tell her to help me. Martha, Martha, the Lord answered, you are worried and upset about many things, but few things are needed, or indeed only one. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her.
Sometimes people ask me why God became a man in Jesus and not a woman. Now it can't be because women are in any way inferior to men, because both men and women are created in the image of God. But it might be because in the social climate of his day, a woman couldn't have had the social influence that Jesus had. So given that Jesus has got this power because he's a man, how does he use that? I think he uses it to raise up women, to bless them and encourage them. Think of all the examples that he uses. A widow who has no money, she's a positive example of generosity. Who's the first person that Jesus tells that he's the Messiah to? It's a Samaritan woman. So who was the first witness of the resurrection? A woman. Jesus deliberately chooses to use his power to elevate women, to bless them, to encourage them, to raise them up in their esteem in the society that he was in.
When a Samaritan woman came to draw water, Jesus said to her, will you give me a drink? The Samaritan woman said to him, you are a Jew, and I am a Samaritan woman. How can you ask me for a drink? Jesus answered her, if you knew the gift of God and who it is that asks you for a drink, you would have asked him, and he would have given you living water.
I love the scene where Jesus is with the woman at the well who had a miserable life. She'd had 5 failed marriages already, and probably she was out at the well in the middle of the afternoon because no one wanted to be around her. She's the object of the town's gossip. And interestingly, Jesus chose her as his very first missionary. It's the only time in the Gospels where Jesus actually said to a person, do you know who I am? I'm the Messiah, the Son of God. It's the only time in the Gospels he did that. That woman would not be allowed in any Bible college I know, wouldn't be allowed as a minister, probably would not allowed to serve on the church board, wouldn't be allowed in some churches. She's messed up her life. But Jesus looked at her not what she has been, but what she could be. And that's the great message that Jesus gave in empowering people, even people who are low down on the totem pole. Not what culture says you are and aren't, but what you can be if you let God truly realize the potential within you.
Jesus is an incredible character. There's never been anyone like him in human history. And he is in human history. He's not some fable or figment of imagination. He's real, he's true, but he's God in human form, showing us God's character. He's fantastic.